Hello everybody, welcome back to the ESL Hearthstone Legendary Series. This is day 2 of the Redemption Tournament. My name is TJ Osmo Cutie Sanders, and Dan has left, and now I am joined with Greetor.
Imagine if I introduced myself as Dan Frodencho.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people would recognize.
People would be like, oh, Dan just changed his shirt.
Yeah, no big deal.
Took off his glasses. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Glad to be here. I'm obviously here to cast some Hearthstone, but also I'm in town for some WCS StarCraft 2 action, which I'm really excited for. Very clearly, I mean, Blizzard puts out some great games, and one of the guys coming up was actually a former StarCraft 2 pro, which is really exciting. My good old friend StrifeCro.
Indeed. Of course, next matchup is StrifeCro. He's going to be taking on Cross7224. Now, Cross is, we saw him in week 4. Which was just last week, and we casted that together as well. He had a pretty rough performance.
Yeah.
He tied for 7th, which is the bottom. He was one of the first 2 players eliminated, and he only had a total score of 3 wins and 6 losses. So it was a really rough day for him. StrifeCro, on the other hand, actually did quite a bit better. He plays 5th in his group, and he had a total score of 5 and 8, which isn't that great. But one of his losses was to the eventual winner, Life Coach, and eventual semifinalist, Azuzu. So he had arguably tougher opponents, and of course StrifeCro is known to be one of the most consistent competitive Hearthstone players in the entire scene.
Yeah, if you look at the Ghost Gamers ranking, you always see him all the way up on the top, whether he's, top 10. I know it fluctuates quite a bit, especially with the new talent that's being brought in by just, continuous tournaments. It's just a fact. Give it more time, give more tournaments, and you'll see more and more players popping up here. But StrifeCro has maintained. He's had that perennial summit, that perennial peak that he's just been able to maintain there. And obviously, everybody expects great things from him. The guy is, I would say, really, really good at understanding sets of games. Yeah.
One of the things that I think is StrifeCro's greatest strength is his ability to think many, many turns ahead, to pinpoint his win condition in games where there's not really a clear win condition, many turns in advance. And sometimes you'll see him make plays that seem very suboptimal for the current state of the board. But then he'll win that game, and you look back on it and you say, well, he wouldn't have been able to win if he didn't make that play that one turn. So it can sometimes be amazing. Now, Cross, on the other hand, he played Priest in his week.
Did not do well.
It was pretty underwhelming. And the technical director of our show actually talked with Cross, I believe yesterday or this morning, and he said he thinks that Cross said that he thinks he made some mistakes with his decks in the first round. And that sort of the pressure has sort of been lifted from him to bring good decks, and now he can just bring whatever he wants, or he has a chance to refine. He's not like pushed. He's had like more than a couple days to actually make his deck list. So he feels like he's going to bring stronger decks to this tournament. He feels like he's going to be better off, and we'll see if he can have a better performance.
I think Cross is one of the guys that's also free to play, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yes.
So he is complete. Wow.
He's also chancy.
He's also chancy. I mean, to be in the high-level competitions and also to have a free-to-play model, that's something to be said. I mean, a lot of experience shown right there, and will definitely be very, very interesting. So overall, I think it's going to be a very clear underdog situation. As Cross didn't perform that well, we've talked about it. StrifeCro has been performing well and has just been dominating, honestly.
Yeah. Now, it appears as if Cross is the only player so far, or in the whole day, that's going to be bringing Mage. That's pretty crazy. Yesterday, we only had one Mage player as well, and it was Too Wet, and he didn't do very well. Well, he did okay.
What did he bring?
He brought like a Tempo Mage.
Okay. I've been seeing that up on the ladder a lot more. I don't think it's...
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's the jack of all trades, master of none at this point.
Yeah.
They're better, like, I don't know. I think there are better decks out there that accomplish the same thing.
Yeah, well, Mage was popular for a while because of Freeze Mage, but with the popularity of Warrior just increasing so much, and Mid-Range Hunter, and even Handlock, these decks just eat Freeze Mage up.
Sure.
As far as Tempo Mage goes, if they don't get a good start and can build that tempo, they fall flat on their face as well. So it's a little bit inconsistent. A lot of the decks right now can prey on it, but we'll have to see what type of Mage Cross is actually bringing. And, of course, Warrior Druid seems to be pretty standard. And then we saw briefly Hunter Warrior Warlock, which in my opinion, and I talked about it a little bit yesterday, Hunter Warrior Warlock should be everybody's lineup right now. And yesterday we saw 6 out of the 8 players, or no, there's only 6 players. It was one. There was only 1 player or 2 players that didn't bring it. Today there's no wait. Okay, I just confused myself. It was 5 out of the 6 players yesterday that all had nearly the same lineup. They all had Hunter, Warlock, Warrior, or Hunter, Warlock, Druid. So it was pretty much the same decks all the way across the board.
Sure.
And there was like 5 Warlocks, 5 Warriors, and 5 Hunters. It was ridiculous.
So I have a question for you because, you know, in poker terminology, if we're like bringing the same lines basically, or same, it's not quite the same thing, but if we're playing the same lines, we're just trading wins and we're just letting RNG decide who's winning the games. Do you think it's a case like that where, you know, they're just letting RNG decide it, or is there enough of a discriminator out there to really tell, like, oh, we're bringing the same decks, but I'm able to play a little bit better than you and get like maybe a 2% or 5% edge here?
Well, the thing about these classes is the reason why they're strong is because there's multiple variations that all play very differently and all have very different matchups.
Gotcha.
Warlock has like 4 strong archetypes right now. It's got Zoo, Handlock, the Dragon Warlock, and Combo Warlock, which I would say are all pretty strong right now. Even Combo Warlock, some people are like, oh, Combo Warlock's not strong. You're an idiot. No, Combo Warlock, we actually saw it yesterday, I believe, take a couple of victories because there's some decks that, like a lot of combo decks now, especially Patron Warrior, that require some build-up time. And decks like that can punish decks that have a slow build-up time. Warrior has Control Warrior and Patron Warrior, and Hunter has Midrange Hunter, Face Hunter, and also Midrange Face Hunter Hybrid. So all 3 of those decks have multiple archetypes that play very differently, that are different to play against. That's what makes them strong. And so the likelihood that we're going to see a straight-up mirror matchup with the same class and the same deck archetype is pretty low. And in those ones, yeah, mirror matchups are the ones that are most susceptible to RNG. But outside of that, I think we're going to see some really great series today. Okay.
Very interested, very clearly, to see what comes of it. Just to let you guys know and keep you guys up to date with what's going on. We are getting everything together. There's just a couple of slight mishaps that are going on very clearly with the player Skypes. We're going to get that fixed and get ready to go ASAP.
Yeah. StrifeCro. We talked a lot about Cross. But
I did want to talk about StrifeCro because he's another guy that I learned about Hearthstone a lot. You talked about it perfectly when you were saying that StrifeCro, he does a lot of technically like inefficient plays if you're looking at that specific turn in a vacuum. Yeah. And then he, as we were talking about before, he plays in like sets. He understands like the entire game and the purpose. He understands that entire set and what he's trying to accomplish with each game. And I actually perused his YouTube one day. I didn't realize that he had one. I perused it, and I just found all of his content. He does multiple classes very clearly, and he just goes in depth on all of his decisions every single turn. It's really, really interesting to get inside the mind of a guy that is so cerebral and complex.
Yeah, and I mean, his results have sort of shown just how smart of a guy he is.
Yeah.
He's also one of the players that plays Hearthstone the most at anybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he works super hard. He plays a lot of, practices a lot, makes sure he is up to date on his decks. Cross is a player that's very unknown. He's a Japanese player, and he was saying that he's actually pretty well known in Japan. He's sort of on the same level as Japanese players like Core Nico, who's recently been picked up by the team Hearthlytics, who participated in one of the weeks of the Legendary Series. We'll actually be seeing him, I believe, tomorrow play in the Redemption Tournament, where people sometimes see him on ladder in North America, but like they don't really have a really good idea of who he is, as opposed to like a lot of the Japanese players know each other. They're a tight-knit group because there's just not that many at the highest level. And he said that he's really wants to make a bigger name for himself. And even if he wins here, he still wants to continue to work hard to try and make it even bigger, even beyond the Legendary Series.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, everybody has those high aspirations. I mean, regardless, it's going to be a great experience playing against a guy like StrifeCro. If he's able to beat him, that's awesome. If he's not, it's still awesome. It's like I always see these tournaments as great learning tools, no matter what. Just being, in the competitive scene for quite a long time. And speaking of that, StrifeCro has been in the competitive scene for a long time. If you guys haven't known before, since, I want to say, 2010 or 2011. He was on Evil Geniuses in the StarCraft 2 era.
Yeah.
And he was one of America's premier players. So for him to transition into Hearthstone and also be at the top, very, very impressive. I think he's a lot more commanding in Hearthstone, though, relative to the scene than he was in StarCraft 2. But it just shows you the evolution of a player and a person's mindset. Really, really cool.
Yeah. We should be jumping into the match momentarily, but before we do, we'll just want to touch one more thing. Of course, I just want to mention the last chance qualifier. We have 4 players that qualified through the regular season week for the Legendary Series. We're going to have 4 players through the Redemption Tournament. And at the end of next week, we're going to have 8 players compete in the last chance qualifier, which is an open tournament, only available to North American players because of flight and visa restrictions. That'll make up the final 8. So briefly, before we jump into this match, legendaryseries.com for more information. But now we're finally able to jump in!
Finally! Man, we were vamping forever. Forever. Yeah. All I want is the action, man.
Yeah.
I want to see the Hearth cards drop down like nobody's business.
I feel like Cross is trying to seduce me with that photo.
It's an intense stare, dude.
Hey, baby, you want to sling some cards? That's what he say. You didn't notice.
What are you replying to?
Looks like a face hunter. Speaking of faces and hunters.
You know how I feel about this.
How you feel about Cross, or how you feel about Face Hunter? Okay, okay.
You know how I feel about Face Hunter.
How do you feel about Face Hunters, Andre?
Well, I asked you last time, how come we haven't seen so many Face Hunters? Is it because it's not good in the meta, or these people have self-respect?
Oh, yeah. Well,
apparently it's part of the meta.
Last week, Mid-Range Hunter had a lot of stronger matchups, because there was more handlock. There was more...
Can you... I'm sorry. I've seen this before.
Okay.
This Hungry Crab.
Yeah, you got it from Unstable Portal.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. I don't think anybody would run Hungry Crab in an actual deck. The only person who's ever run Hungry Crab in an actual legitimate deck was Trump at the Seed Story Cup #1, or one of the Seed Story Cups. But back then, Murlocs were actually popular. Nowadays, if you actually put Hungry Crab in a legitimate constructed deck, you'd probably lose every single game you'd play.
Okay.
And it's really rough to get that off of an unstable portal just because...
That's brutal, man.
You're effectively wasting the mana that you would, because anything above 3 cost, you're wasting most of the mana that you use to even use unstable portal in the first place. So there's some cards that can be highly impactful, even if they're lower cost, but that's just really brutal. Flamewaker and Toshli. The synergy. You get the spare parts from Toshli, and you can use those to fire out the Flamewaker. I've been waiting for someone to bring out a deck like this.
You just have to wait until turn 7 to actually activate it.
But I mean, Toshli is a strong board by itself. For 6 mana, a 5/7 is really strong.
Yeah, it's true.
A lot of players talk about the special effects of Sylvanas and Shield Maiden, but their bodies is one of the reasons that makes them strong. Toshli costs the same amount of mana, but has more health. So the spare parts is just sort of a secondary bonus effect.
Sure. You get a spare part every time it goes out in the field, and then when it leaves the field.
Exactly. And if you draw a silence from... I don't think anybody would ever
and then you get a duplicate. Oh my God. 6 spare parts.
Yeah. That'd be ridiculous.
Yep.
To play a deck revolving around Toshli. You can play Gazlo too, so every time you play those... you draw a mech. Every time you play the spare parts, you draw a mech. That'd be pretty cool.
Did you see the dream scenario, by the way, with 2 Flamewalkers and 2 Knife Jugglers, and then they played a Mirror Entity? You haven't seen that?
No.
I think it was on Reddit, but what a dream scenario, right? You play Mirror Entity, there's 2 bodies that go on the field, so Knife Jugglers hit twice, and then you get the spell.
Oh my God.
So it's the Flamewalker double shot.
Even without anything else, just having 2 Flamewakers on the board and Knife Juggler would be a dream scenario, even if you didn't have Mirror Entity.
Yeah, right?
Like, you could have anything in your hand.
Yeah. But Mirror Entity, you cost 1. It's the most efficient 1 drop.
Oh, Mirror Image.
Or Mirror Image.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
okay.
Mirror Image.
Yeah.
It's the most efficient 1 drop that you could possibly get.
Yeah. Okay, Mirror Image. Yeah, that's dream scenario. No, you wouldn't even have room to double Mirror Image. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
The dream.
That's Missile Mage at its finest.
At its finest, man.
Tempo Mage, I think, actually is pretty decent against Hunter, just because you have a lot of ways to ping off small things. Like Flame Waker's great at pinging off 1-health creatures. A 2/4 for 3 mana is able to trade into a lot of the shenanigans that Hunters can put out on turns 3 and 4. Knife Juggler especially. The big thing here is, though, curving out. I mean, he actually didn't even have any spells to even combo with that Flame Waker, so that's a little bit rough. But
very similar to like the Mech Warper. Like, you have to get rid of that Flame Walker so fast. It basically has taunt on it, and that's why it gets targeted down. And still, like, having 4 hit points go towards a minion rather than your face, such a helpful scenario in this current position. StrifeCro in a little bit of a pickle here. I mean, he's, albeit pretty far behind right now, just because of the taunt. The double secrets are up, which are super threatening.
Yeah.
And then, what does his turn 5 play? Like, this stinks, man.
He's going to have to check for Counterspell here, which it is. I believe it's Counterspell and Mirror Entity. Usually these Tempo Mages run 2 Mirror Entities and 1 Counterspell. If you put Sludge Belcher in, there is a possibility that you can run Duplicate, but I would imagine that with tempo cards like Flame Waker, Mirror Entity is a lot bigger of a tempo play than Duplicate. So, and that's exactly what it is going to be. So, that's kind of rough. Now, this Hunter is sort of the hybrid Hunter. It's the hybrid between Face and Mid-Range Hunter that actually just became popular yesterday when Trump made his way through the Legendary Series Redemption Group A with it. And this deck seems to run 2 Freezing Traps, and that seems to be pretty standard. So, and that's exactly what we see.
Beautiful play here. I mean, is able to proc, maintains the 1/2 taunt, which is actually pretty helpful. And now Toshli on a clear board, even with this Savannah popping out here. It's going to be one-shotted pretty easily. Of course, the minions will pop out, but hey, that's closer to empowering your Mana Worm, empowering your eventual second Flamewalker.
Yeah.
That's the dream, man. Nevertheless, do you actually just go for face here, though? Piloted Shredder, just chuck out.
How much health does he have? 25 health.
Because it's 25-25. Like, you could conceivably race your opponent here.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's really hard for him to trade in. He's only got 1 card in his hand, so even if that card had, like, the most amount of bursts possible, then still, yeah, it looks like he is going to go for that. He also sets it up if StrifeCro finds himself in a position where he feels inclined to go face. He sets it up for a Flame Cannon next turn.
Makes sense. And we're probably just going to relinquish our hand at this point if we're StrifeCro.
Yeah, and he's got to clear off some things here because there's a lot of lethal cards that could be in Cross's hand. I mean, he has 13 damage, 14 damage from the board, plus hero power alone. So either any Frostbolt, any Fireball, even just like a Whirling Blades, and 1 other spare part would be enough. So he's got to try and clear as much power off the board here while still setting himself up in a position where he can actually find lethal damage with the next couple cards.
And he's actually going to go for the trade in Toshli.
Oh, man.
Gets rid of that, but of course adds another spare part. Man, this Mana Worm is going to be jacked, man. He's not going to mess around.
Oh my God. In combination with the Cloak Field.
Is it? No, it's definitely the turn to play here.
Yeah, I mean, all you do... Okay, so let's see. StrifeCro has 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage on the board with no cards in his hand. The maximum amount of damage he can do would be Quick Shot for 3.
And then Hero Power 2.
And then Hero Power for 2. And then into a Kill Command. So that'll be an extra 9 damage.
Oh my God.
So even the maximum amount of damage that StrifeCro could possibly do next turn would be 21.
I think he's just going to trade into the Hyenas and just maintain his 2 creatures on the board. I don't see why you would go for the trade on the Piloted Shredders at this point.
Yeah.
Just reduce as much damage as possible because you know you're going to have...
To be honest, I think you just go face.
Go for a face?
There's no reason... Like I said...
Yeah, you're right.
There's absolutely no reason, no way that StrifeCro can kill Cross.
Yeah, you're right.
And this way, he sets up lethal with just double Fireball. And this way, he also has a potential for lethal even if there's a low Theb, because he has 5 damage from his stealth creature plus 6 damage from a 9-mana fireball. So he sets him up in a position where he has a guaranteed win next turn, and there's no way that he can die. So very well played, and Cross is going to take first victory. StrifeCro goes down in the series.
Very surprising, but you know, that's kind of what we can expect from those like Hunter decks. Like a lot of times, well, first off, this Tempo Mage does reasonably well against it. We were talking about it. You were talking. I actually felt like, you know, going into it, I have this presumption, I would say, that, you know, the Hunter kind of fulfills a little bit the same purposes as these Tempo Mages, especially the mid-range, where it's like they're putting out a lot of lethal damage and hopefully snowballing, right? Yeah. And it's just a different way of snowballing for sure, but I feel like it's very draw dependent for both of them. Yeah. Whether or not Mage is more draw dependent than Hunter or vice versa, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah. Well, StrifeCro's still going to have to find a win with that Hunter. We've seen that Hunter have a lot of success over the past couple days, so I'm sure he won't have difficulties finding a win. Cross has Warrior and Druid left. Now, StrifeCro's lineup is Hunter, Warrior, and Warlock. There's a reason why players aren't bringing in Druid as often. It's because a lot of the decks that are strong right now prey on Druids. Zoo Warlocks, the mid-range Face Hunter Hybrid, and Grim Patron Warrior all have pretty decent matchups against Druid. There's a lot of players that are comfortable with Druid, and a lot of players that think that Druid has, at worst, a 40% chance to win an individual matchup because of cards like Innervate and Wild Growth. They can get out to explosive starts. But I do think Druid has been sort of shuffled out of the top 5 decks currently in the meta for like the last 2 days. And we'll see if Cross is going to manage to find a win in the series with Druid as his deck. I'm sure he's happy to get the win with Mage out of the way in the first game. Yep. But still going to be a tough battle.
Definitely so. Big question is, what type of warrior is this? And of course, what type of warlock? StrifeCro, I know, has been favoring Handlock, though. He has been playing it a lot as of late.
Yeah, that's true. He's been playing a lot of it on stream and in ladder, but
that's kind of like, you know that I know.
Yeah, StrifeCro
that type of thing
is not one of the predictable players.
Yeah.
And it's not that he wants to be unpredictable. It's that StrifeCro just is open-minded with the strength or the competitive level of decks. There's been many tournaments where StrifeCro has brought a deck that nobody even knows where it came from. It's like a StrifeCro original that came from nowhere that nobody expected would be strong. That did. We go back to like Dream Hack of last year, or one of the Dream Hacks, where he introduced Grinder Mage, which didn't even have a name back then. It was just like Mage that went to Fatigue a lot and won a lot of games. And it was just a bunch of, it didn't look like it had much synergy with each of the cards that had in its deck. It just had a lot of grindy cards, and he ended up winning the whole thing with that, or maybe even taking runner-up. I can't remember. It just went really far. And so I would never peg StrifeCro to bring a certain type of deck over another.
Would you say that's his like greatest advantage in a lot of these matchups? And also, I kind of want to branch off of this and say, is this format the best for StrifeCro? Because we are in a locked-in format, and you're saying that like the best is when he's surprising people with these decks. And a lot of times, as soon as you show your deck, like everybody knows. And I feel like the best format for StrifeCro in particular is if they have new decks every single best of series.
Yeah. I think StrifeCro is just all around good. I think no matter what format he plays in, he's going to be good.
I mean, as you said, he plays so much. He just has so much experience. Yeah. He's been in a lot of these spots.
Yeah.
So thinking is almost out of the question. It's like he's going back to muscle memory. He's going back to positions that he's already recognized before in the past.
Yeah.
And able to very clearly and quickly see the right decision.
All right, well, Cross is going to throw out a Patron Warrior here. StrifeCro, mid-range Zoo, seems to be.
All right. Seems reasonable.
Actually, no, yeah. I want to see the rest of those cards. Because those cards don't give away as much. But yeah, it looks like there's still a possibility that it could be Demon Warlock, because sometimes, like Silent Storm, when he makes his Demon Warlocks, he puts in 1 or 2 Void Callers and Abusive Sergeants. But it's most likely mid-range Zoo. Dodge Boom doesn't really give us anything either. Cards I'm looking for are cards like Haunted Creeper or Flame Imp.
Yeah.
Imp King Boss doesn't really give us anything either. Oh, man. It's like I'm 99% sure that it's just standard mid-range demon, like the mid-range Demon Zoo, but maybe if we see a Demon Heart, it'll change my mind.
It'd be crazy.
Yeah.
10-12 Doomguard.
That's very scary.
Or killed Emperor Thorson.
Very.
Either or.
Yeah.
All right. So I actually have seen some of Life Coach's decks where he actually throws in this Void Caller too. I don't know if it's like a useful card, because I have heard, who did I hear it from? Well, I've heard that.
Was it me?
Like, I don't think so. This is like a while ago, where everybody was saying, it might have been Raynad actually, that he was saying like the Void Caller is actually really important in the early stages to defend against a lot of stuff. But this was before, or I'm sorry, Void Walker. Yeah. This is before like Zombie Chow was out and stuff like that. That was a lot better.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a card that maybe could mess with your opponent, but as soon as you put Imp Gang Boss, it's clearly over. But I'm positive that I was looking at like all the different alterations. I think it was on, they did like an analysis on Ghosted Gamers, and they showed like how many different hand locks Life Coach brought out, and I would assume that it's to mess with their opponents to actually say, hey, this might be Zoo. You know, he's merging ranges basically.
Especially players that are in the spotlight a lot.
Yeah.
That a lot of the matches that they play, their decks are broadcasted to the world.
It can be overstated how big of an advantage that is. Like if I'm going up against Life Coach, just because Life Coach is streaming his games and he streams so often, like I have an inherent advantage. Yeah. And of course he doesn't know what I'm capable of. I can do anything.
He doesn't know what I'm capable of.
He has no clue, bro. And the stuff like that, like what do you prepare for? You have to prepare for a lot of times worst case scenarios. You defend against everything.
Yeah.
You become inefficient. Anyway, let's talk about the game.
This turn is awkward. Just because Cross doesn't really want to put him on not having a D. I mean, he's got 5 cards. He played Void Caller with a lot of confidence, which means there's probably a demon on the other end of that. Yep. And he doesn't have any way to remove whatever's going to come out of that. So if a Doomguard pops out, if Mal'Ganis pops out, he's in a rough situation. But StrifeCro is going to be able to plop this out if he wants to.
He's basically trying to call the bluff, I'm sure.
A free Doomguard.
That's right.
Effectively. He has to make sure that he throws out the Imp Gang Boss first. So Imp Gang Boss, Nerubian Egg, and then you get your Doomguard. Sounds like a reasonable turn to me.
I don't mind that whatsoever, man.
Yeah.
That's an explosive turn there.
Yeah. If he's planning to go face with the Doomguard, he wants to make sure that he doesn't throw out the Haunted Creeper, just because that allows the Acolyte of Pain to get one more draw. And he also has an activator for the Nerubian Egg in the Abusive Sergeant, so there's no reason to not play the Nerubian Egg in that situation. And he positions this really well. He knows that the Doomguard's going to come on the far left or the far right, and he positions his Imp Gang Boss on the far left because the Imps spawn on the inside side of the Imp Gang Boss. So that way, if he gets a card like Direwolf Alpha that he puts in the middle, he can use that. He utilizes the Imps to maximum effectiveness and also is able to activate his egg. So putting the egg in the middle.
Smart, man.
Smart move.
Several moves ahead. Now we have a weird turn 5. Like, what do you do in this spot when you have no executes? Like, I am a lot of times very scared to actually put any creatures on the board. I'm more willing to take damage from the Void Caller than to activate it, just because I know it's just such a swingy turn if this situation actually happens. Yeah. But now that you're in this situation, like, what have you possibly prepared to ready yourself? Do you just go for the kill with this Inner Rage, the weapon, and the Cruel Taskmaster?
No, nope. I think you got to play low depth here. Okay. Just because you need the biggest body on board as possible to be able to match with whatever's going to come out here.
Okay.
And he doesn't even check for the second draw from the Acolyte because he knows, oh man, Despite. Man, he's just not finding ways to be able to deal with this. And, oh, well, Power Overwhelming would be fantastic.
Despite would have been able to deal with that, though. And you have the charge left over. Would that have been worth it or no? Because, like, my original thought process was we get our Fire War Axe, Cruel Taskmaster. That's 4 damage. And then, of course, we power up the Acolyte. And that would have been able to kill it. We still have a weapon on the board.
Yeah, maybe he thought he was running out of time.
It could have been just he got nervous. I think nervous is the wrong word.
Well, he didn't really think of the consequences.
Sure.
Of, oh, I'm going to get a second draw from Acolyte. Well, didn't even check. Played the Loatheb instead.
Yeah.
Oh, Warsong Commander is actually a good draw, but he doesn't have enough mana to sort of open up any sort of opportunities for him.
Definitely a rough turn yet again. I mean, it's because of the huge momentum switch that we had in turn 5. Oh, I mean, he has to start clearing stuff off the board.
Okay, so if he plays Emperor Thorson and clears the Doomguard here, he's left with 9 damage total on the board. He's at 13 health. Power Overwhelming kills him.
Kills him.
Second Doomguard kills him. But he would have used Power Overwhelming last turn to clear off the Loatheb.
That's true.
Most likely.
Most likely.
If he had it. So he can put him on pretty much just second Doomguard to win, or a top-decked Power Overwhelming. Because Defender of Argus wouldn't do it. He would need usually a multiple card combination. And next turn, he can actually make some pretty big combos because he's reduced not only the Frothing Berserker, but also the Warsong Commander. So he can 7 mana. I mean, he's got 3 mana left over after those 2 cards. He can, like, Battle Rage for 1, look for a 2-drop. He can even Cruel Taskmaster to try and help clear up some stuff.
Definitely has a lot to do. I wonder if you just tap here looking for the extra 4 damage. Probably not, right? Just because, I mean, there are 3 cards that can help you out of your deck, so you're looking at like 15% that you draw into.
Well,
it's a little bit better than that. I just assumed 20 cards.
Yeah.
It's around there, but it's less than 20 cards. Probably like
and also
16,
he
15.
has, it's turn 7 and he has Dr. Boom. The one thing that he's worried about by playing Dr. Boom is that he opens up a world of hurt to himself if there's something like Warsong Commander, Grim Patron, and then like a Whirlwind. Because then there's like potentially 4 Grim Patrons, all that can plop into these boom bots, get even more Grim Patrons. He's got to make sure he secures the victory over the next couple of turns.
Oh, man. There's that Whirlwind. But he's missing a pretty big component, I would say, overall. Even if he goes and tries to draw for it, he will not have enough mana to actually play everything. As you can see, he's at 7 mana. He still doesn't have his Grim Patron.
He can live.
He can live.
And the way he lives is by using Warsong Commander.
Yeah. Froth it up. Whirlwind.
Frothing. He might even want to throw out the Cruel Taskmaster just to reduce the chances that the Frothing Berserker gets killed by the Boom bots, because the Frothing Berserker is actually the way that he kills the Dr. Boom.
Okay. He's going to go for the Inner Rage.
Yeah. Either way.
What is he drawing for with going for the Inner Rage?
Potentially an Execute.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Yeah. So, yeah. Throwing the Cruel Taskmaster out there first. Oh, but if he's going to go for Warsong.
He wanted Warsong first, right?
No. He wants to also reduce the chance that his Warsong Commander doesn't die.
Okay.
So maybe not. This is the best way to protect the Frothing Berserker if that's the choice that he's going to go with. But the only way he lives here is if he uses Warsong Commander, Frothing Berserker, Whirlwind, and then kills the Dr. Boom with the Frothing Berserker.
Oh, he's actually going to Whirlwind first. Well.
No, that doesn't work.
Is he dead? Yeah. He did.
I'm not really sure what he was going for there. But StrifeCro was going to tie up the series.
There you go. Difficult position. I mean, we can really pinpoint it to turn 5. Okay, so it really comes down to that decision to actually proc the Death Rattle and get that Doomguard out. Of course, he doesn't know there's that Doomguard.
Well, he didn't even proc it. He just let it go.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
StrifeCro.
But basically, he procced it, right? Like, he's putting himself in a situation where he allows his opponent to get that Doomguard out. And a lot of times, like, you can throw out taunts, but just make sure that that minion still lives, or they have to use something like Power Overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it dies so that the charge isn't triggered directly after that.
I think Cross played about as best he could with the hand that he was given, maybe with the exception of that last turn, because he could have survived for another turn to try and open up opportunities.
So you're saying turn 5, there's no mistakes there? Like that's the winning line or the correct line?
There's nothing else that he could have done. He would have had to play a creature eventually. Eventually, that Doom Guard would have come out.
But I'm saying like you always have to just run into it. Like, what about waiting and waiting for more mana or a potentially better drop, or just throwing out the Acolyte of Pain and dodging the Doom Guard?
It's possible.
Or dodging the Void Caller.
It's possible.
Because like I feel like if you're not ready to confront the the huge range, because it could be Mal'Ganis, it could be another Void Caller, it could be the Doom Guards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just puts yourself in a really rough spot no matter what pops out of there.
Yeah.
So kind of play around it. I don't know if that's the correct thing either, because playing around it, it's like they could be bluffing now, and you could be playing really inefficiently.
Yeah. A lot of pro players will say that it's actually better to pop the Void Caller yourself when you can, and just bite the bullet and hope that nothing comes out, rather than letting your opponent dictate what pops out, because
interesting.
It doesn't allow them to control the state of the board immediately after, like a Doom Guard pops out. Like a Doom Guard, they get to charge it in, control it immediately. Whereas if you're the one who controls it, then you are able to set up your board in a way to best defend against the possibility of a Doom Guard.
Oh.
So it's a really tough decision to make, and I mean he played around it as much as he could. It just eventually that thing's going to die, and eventually whatever's on the other side is going to come out. So. Also, there's if you're popping on your turn, you're also making it so, what if there was a Void Walker and an Imp King boss also in the hand? Which was an Imp King boss the next turn. If that was a card sooner, if he had been the one who was controlling the Void Caller popping out, he could have got a Imp King boss out instead.
Yeah,
so
that's true. I
don't think there was much that he could do.
Guess I'm just trying to explore all the possible situations, just because, I don't know. I don't know if that is like the best EV play that you could make.
It's a really tough card to deal with.
Yeah, it definitely is. I would love, I'm sure there's some numbers simulator genius out there that can actually do it and see all the times that it actually happens where it's correct or incorrect to do it. Because right now I think a lot of the evidence and statistical stuff is anecdotal. Mm-hmm. And would really, really love to see something like that. But nevertheless, we move on into the good old Hunter, yet again, up against the Druid. Right now, it is tied 1-1 as StrifeCro was able to even it up in that last battle. And
alrighty.
This is a little bit awkward for Druid. We were talking about this earlier.
This is tough. This is a tough matchup. Well, he's got Wild Growth, so that makes things a little bit easier. But this is sort of... So this deck is really tough for Druid for a couple reasons. Druids struggle with Hunter a lot because the inconsistencies with their early game can just kill them. If they don't have a play until turn 4, sometimes they can just die.
Yeah.
And the strength, this deck, this hybrid Hunter, which has elements of Face Hunter and elements of Midrange Hunter, sort of has the best of both worlds as far as dealing with Druid. They have a lot of early pressure, which Druid struggles with. But one of the reasons Druid can win is they can either stabilize or race. And the mid-range portion of this deck make it so that it's really hard for Druid to stabilize, because you get through the early game, you get through the pesky Leper Gnomes and the Glaive Zuka, and then you hit a high main. And just when you thought you'd stabilized, this hybrid mid-range Face Hunter deck can just push through for the win. Yeah. So it's really tough. And even though Druid, I said, doesn't have too many unfavorable matchups, like their worst matchup is like 40% because of the mechanics of Wild Growth and Innervate, this is one of their worst.
Sure. And Emperor Thorson is kind of a useless card in this a lot of the times, just because it's like you can't play it and it be super helpful because you're losing a lot of tempo. I mean, given it is a 5/5 that's being dropped on the field, but for 6 mana, you're normally not in a position where you can actually play this and have it win you the game. You need to be in a winning position, and then you play this to help out. So this is kind of like a dud card, very unfortunately.
Yeah.
A Wrath will pop out, a Druid of the Claw here.
The one thing the Emperor Thorsan does do is it can allow you, I mean, depending on your hand, sometimes you can open up, even though you're losing tempo on the turn that you play it. If you have 5 cards in your hand, you're basically giving yourself 2.5 innervates to use for the following turn. So,
interesting.
It effectively makes it so that even though there's a potential for you to fall behind on that turn, there's a potential for you to come back plus some on the next turn. It also opens up more opportunities for you to race. Because if you have combo piece in your hand, being able to put out combo 1 turn earlier, or even just maybe double Savage Roar 1 turn earlier can win you games. So
yeah, that's true.
if you're not too far behind, then it's good. But if you're behind, then sometimes you don't have the luxury of being able to play a 6-mana 5/5, and that's it. Like 6-mana 5/5 with no immediate effect on the board can sometimes be rough.
Yeah, understandable.
Like right now, he had an option to put an Emperor Thorsan, but Druid of the Claw has an immediate effect because it blocks damage next turn.
Yeah, yep. And I like this. He hero powered, went for the trade. That way his Druid of the Claw stays out a lot longer. And now we're going to see the Pilot Shredder being dropped on turn 4.
Piloted Shredder.
Oh, yeah.
So we talked a little bit last week about the real-life implications of Hearthstone cards. Seems a little bit unrealistic that Pilot Shredder is basically implying that whatever card comes out of it was driving it.
Or captured.
Nope, driving it.
Yeah, you're right.
It was driving it.
It has to be.
So there's a lot of 2-drops that don't seem like
there, though.
that don't seem like they'd fit in a Piloted Shredder. But I digress. Just one of those things that keeps me up at night, you know?
I feel you. All right, nice position now, as we were talking about. See, this is what I'm talking about. You have your I felt like Druid got a nice little tiny advantage to be able to drop this Thorsan. And now he's able to kind of like, not seize momentum, but he already was ahead from that Druid of the Claw. And this is going to potentially maintain that.
Yeah. This isn't the best of hands to have reduced by Thorsan. Like a 3-mana swipe and a 4-mana Druid of the Claw are great, but 2-mana BGH doesn't help you that much.
Do you just BGH here? You can use everything but the swipe right now. I mean, that's pretty wasteful.
Yeah. So BGH, you don't want to make Unleash the Hound stronger. BGH is good in this matchup if you can put your opponent on not having Dr. Boom, which you can't, or if putting BGH on the board sets you up for lethal the following turn.
I see. I see.
I mean, it's good as a body, and it might buy you time, but I'm not sure how effective it'll be unless you can put him on not having Dr. Boom. But he's going to play it, and there is a no, there's not even a possibility for lethal. Not sure how much I like that. Oh! StrifeCro playing around Explosive Shot. Okay, so playing around Explosive Shot is something that players in Constructed never do. But StrifeCro always puts in the possibility that anything could be in this. Oh, sorry, Cross.
No. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Got a little bit confused there.
Okay,
Cross
so
played around the Explosive Shot.
I see.
It's a card that you don't see in Constructed very often. But when I see players play around it, when they're 99% sure that Explosive Shot's not there, slightly impressive. Slightly. Could have been an accident.
It could have. It could have.
There's only like 2 other combinations that he could possibly put his creatures in.
All right.
But, you know.
So we'll proc this right now.
This is another good reason why you should play BGH, is to proc a Freezing Trap.
Makes sense.
That was one that I forgot about.
It's going to go ahead and silence this. Probably just trade out the Thorsan. Oh. Okay, Shade first.
This is one thing that I was
What's he deliberating? Sorry.
This is one thing that... okay, it was an accident. This confirms playing around Explosive Shot was an accident.
Well, he could still play...
Because now he's playing right into Explosive Shot. Unless he plays something else.
He could play the Keeper right in the middle.
Okay.
That still doesn't play around it.
Cross.
Oh, no, he could check the Keeper out all the way on the left-hand side, trade out with the Thorsan.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Because, you know, he has 1 card in his hand. It's turn 9 for him. What does he need things to be cheaper for, you know? Okay. He's not playing around it.
He just made me look like an idiot. Thank you, Cross. God.
It was just a very serendipitous.
I was giving him so much credit, and it was all just...
It was all sham, bro.
A big accident. Well, Knife Juggler Unleashed the Hounds is pretty good, but he's pretty far behind right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how effective these juggles could be. Best case scenario, he picks off the Shade, but that's pretty unlikely.
Let's find out. 1, face. 2, face.
Oh, he got 1.
Oh.
Oh. Okay, well, that's not too bad. The juggle on... Yeah, that's actually pretty bad. Worst case scenario, I think, would be if all the juggles... Like, if one juggle went to the Shade and then all the other juggles went to the Keeper, but...
Okay, he has to hero power here. He cannot do a freezing trap.
Well...
Because it's just going to go Keeper of the Forest, gets back to the hand, he kills what's on the board, he goes... Yeah, right?
Well...
I mean, he's trying to maintain his board.
Yeah. I mean,
and he does...
The other thing is, when else is he going to use the freezing trap?
That's true.
Either way, that Knife Juggler is going to die. It's just whether or not he protects, he blocks damage from the board, or also, protects his Knife Juggler slightly.
His Glaive Zuka is kind of weird too, because like it won't get played for a while.
Yeah.
Because once this freezing trap gets proc, what ends up happening is he still has another charge. He doesn't want to use his Glaive Zuka, so he has kind of like a useless card. But as you said, when else are you going to use your freezing trap? It does 3 damage instead of 2 with the Glaive Zuka. So definitely a tough situation for the Warrior. StrifeCro's not looking in the best spot, but anything can happen. I mean, Druid is at 13 health.
Yeah. Both players are sort of out of cards, and in a top deck war, it's hard to say who will come out on top because Cross's cards inherently have more value because he's got the slower deck. But in the hero power war, that's actually even going to come out even there unless Cross is having to use his to clear off creatures because he'll effectively do 1 damage and gain 1 health, which would make StrifeCro's effectively only do 1 damage and he wouldn't be gaining 1 health. So
it's true.
It's tough to say.
Okay, just thinking of all the cards that help. Obviously, this Piloted Trader does not... I mean, it helps with board control, but he really wants Taunters up. He wants a way to heal.
Yep.
So we're looking for the 2 lures that he's missing, that he hasn't found into. And we're also looking for
Sludge Belcher.
A Belcher.
Also combo.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to close the game out. But this puts him in a really good position. Going to be able to clear off the board. He's very healthy. But he doesn't really have tools to race.
Yeah.
He only uses the Shade now just because he needs to pile on as much damage as possible.
Ooh.
All right, so...
So he holds his hand here, right? He actually just goes hero power, pass?
He's going to calculate how much damage he can do over the next 2 turns. He wants to put himself in the best position to set up lethal over 2 turns. This turn he's going to do 5 damage if he doesn't play anything. Okay, so he's going to put his opponent at 8, which is effectively going to be 9 the next turn. So next turn he could use the Eagle Horn Bow again, then Hero Power for 5.
Yep.
Unleash for at least 2, and then Glaive Zuka for 3 for 8. So if his opponent plays 1 more creature, he would have lethal next turn, as long as it's not a taunt or a heal.
Yep.
So I think just using your Eagle Horn Bow and then Hero Power would be the best option. Now, you can play around... You can't... Oh, man. You can...
So interesting, man.
You can play around both pieces of the combo here. Oh, you can't play around both pieces of the combo, so you might as well... Okay, is this more damage over the 2 turns? No, it's not.
Does it showcase his hand too much when he just holds everything? Wow, there it is. Sludge Belcher. I mean, he did have a high chance of getting one of the money cards. Again, 2 Ancient of Lores, Belcher. You know, he's still looking at like 15 cards. It's 20% of the time he draws into something advantageous. At the very least, does he run 2 Belchers in this? Just 1?
2 Belchers.
2 Belchers?
A lot of Druid decks, it depends what tech cards they put in.
Yeah.
Will run 1 Azure Drake, 2 Druid of the Claw, and 1 Sludge Belcher.
Okay.
But you can also run 1 Azure Drake, 2 Druid of the Claw, 2 Sludge Belchers, or 2 Azure Drakes, 2 Druid of the Claws, 1 Sludge Belcher. It all depends on like what your bottom end is. If you decide to include Zombie Chow, if you decide to include tech cards like Mind Control Tech, if you top out at Rag, or if you top out at like Boom, if you decide to include scenarios. So your 5-drop is usually the place where you cut cards in order to make room for tech. But I don't know. I can't remember if you played a Sludge Belcher earlier.
Okay. Well, at this point, it looks like, by the way, his Unleash the Hounds was the correct play given up based on what happened. But that's obviously very result-oriented. But having this Belcher here, he would be nowhere close to lethal up. Whereas now, he can conceivably do it. The question is, do you keep the Haunted Creeper in your hand or not?
You have to.
You have to, right? For the eventual...
Because you're only...
Because what if he heals? Like, he might be saying to himself, oh, let's just stay alive?
All right, so... I mean, okay, you throw out the Haunted Creeper and you get rid of a kill command win condition, but you still maintain a quick shot win condition.
That's true.
And this could act as a heal for the Hunter, or for StrifeCro, because if Cross doesn't have lethal, which he doesn't, it might force your opponent to actually play or kill the Haunted Creeper.
Correct.
To avoid being killed by a silence or... Well, he'd be killed by a silence enemy. To avoid being killed by a kill command.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Kill command would be
kill command
dead anyway. Oh man.
Well, if that's why I said if it was an Ancient of Lore drop here and he just goes to the 5 heal.
Yeah. Well, either
it would be gone.
Either way, he wins the kill command. Correct. So I guess he doesn't need the beast.
No, with Ancient of Lore, he heals for 5, and then he's not going to be able to get through the taunt, and he just kills the beast. That's why he needs to keep the beast in his hand.
He wouldn't have been able to get through anyway. Because he would still be... He'd be able to do 7 damage. He would have been at 10 health with Ancient of Lore. So, this way he...
I think we're agreeing on the same thing.
Okay, okay.
And...
That's not it.
Nope. Well, no.
He needed silence, quick shot, or kill command.
Yeah. He had a lot, too.
He had two kill commands remaining. This deck usually only runs 1 quick shot and 1 Iron Beak Owl.
So 4 out of... How many cards did he have? Can we just see that real quick?
Like 16. But he goes ahead and concedes, and Cross going to take a 2-1 lead.
Man, brutal.
In the series. Just 1 game away from securing a spot in the semifinals, and he would face Lead Paint in the semifinals.
Hunter being actually StrifeCro's downfall here.
Yeah, he's definitely struggling to find a win with that deck. And he still has two decks left to find wins with. We haven't seen his Warrior yet, and he still has to find a win with the Hunter. Cross, on the other hand, only has 1 deck left, and that's his Warrior. Hunter's going to be really tough to find a win.
That's rough, man.
Yeah. Now,
do you just lead out with your Hunter no matter what?
Well, either way, you have to win with both, so it really doesn't matter. You can make arguments for momentum, like put out your best matchup first to try and throw your opponent on tilt. Have the best likelihood to win, but in the end, you have to win with both decks. So it really doesn't matter what he has to throw out here, considering Cross is choosing Warrior no matter what.
All right.
But StrifeCro's on the ropes.
Yeah, it's not looking too good, very clearly. And a very surprising result, especially after what we saw from this last week. Of course, Cross just kind of fizzled out when we saw him in the regular Legendary Series. But he's given StrifeCro more than a run for his money. As you said, on the ropes, and not a lot of people expected this situation.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, it's been very, very unlucky, I would say, too, for StrifeCro. I shouldn't say unlucky, but, you know, variance hasn't swung in his direction.
Yeah. Well, Warrior versus Warrior. Now, we have yet to... Actually, we did see Cross is running the Patron Warrior, but we've yet to see StrifeCro's Warrior deck yet. I don't know if I'd pin him to be a Control Warrior in this matchup, just to try and feed on the Patron Warriors that he would know would be in this. But if I had to make a guess, I'd say this is probably going to be a mirror matchup with 2 Patron Warrior decks.
We'll find out.
And indeed it is.
Double Patrons on both sides.
Those are actually nearly identical hands on both sides, too. Both players have Grim Patron, Acolyte, and Execute. Cross, of course, has a Whirlwind because he gets 4 cards. That would be kind of funny if StrifeCro's first card in his deck would be a Whirlwind. Or if he mulligans away and gets it back. Nope, it's an Emperor Thorsan. Okay. Well, Grim Patron, this is one of the only decks where, or only matchups where you keep Grim Patron. Just because, usually in a mirror matchup, Grim Patron Warrior versus Grim Patron Warrior, the first player to flood the board with their own patrons wins. Because it's so hard for your opponent, Patron Warrior, to remove your patrons. And usually, if you put them on the back foot, and they're having to remove your patrons, they're not developing patrons of their own.
Yeah.
Because they can't develop patrons of their own without giving you more patrons.
I think the only way to come back from that is
you already have slope.
You already have damage being placed on your opponent, and then you find something like a Frothing Berserker, Whirlwind, and then you go for the kill like the next turn. That's it. Like that's your only win condition at that point. And let's be honest, that happens so rarely. Because what's the probability that you're able to put that much damage on your opponent, and then they take board control, and then you still have some sort of, part of the combo left? Not too common.
All right. Well, StrifeCro is in a rough position. Not forced, but decides to throw out his Acolyte of Pain just all willy-nilly. Just because he's unhappy with his hand. He's willing to take the risk that it just gets Fiery War Axed or Death Spited in order to try and find another draw.
Well, the play is Fiery War Axe into Armor Up. Not going to do anything with that, just passes.
When this matchup first came out and players didn't know how to play it, it was so funny to watch, or so funny to play on ladder. Like when Grim Patron Warriors first came out, what would happen is both players would be too afraid to make a move. That literally the game for the first 6 turns would just be both players weaponing up and then hitting each other's face. Like my first mirror matchup in Grim Patron Warrior, literally we both Fiery War Axe on turn 2, smacked each other in the face. On turn 3, we armored up, smacked each other in the face again. And then on turn 4, we both equipped Death Bite and just smacked each other in the face again. Like both players were so afraid to throw out Acolytes because they think they needed to activate their Acolyte. They were so afraid to throw out a lot of their key cards like Frothing Berserker and Warsong Commander because they didn't know how to effectively do combos yet. So
do you think that idea still maintains where you need to keep your Acolytes?
No,
you could just go for the cycle one for one?
It's all situational. This deck has so many options at any given time. StrifeCro threw out his Acolyte there because he wasn't happy with what he had in his hand. He was willing to take the risk of his Acolyte getting killed and only getting 1 draw because even just 1 draw would improve his hand by a lot. So
yeah.
But this is actually, I think, a pretty big advantage for Cross. I like his hand a lot better.
So.
The only thing that StrifeCro has going for him is he's got pretty big combos. He has Emperor Thorsan, which he could just pop down right now. And then he's got both of his Warsong Commanders and both of his Grim Patrons. And his Whirlwinds are going to cost 0.
And also, there. I mean,
that's absurd.
I think you actually trade your 2/2 and your 2/4 at this point. Because you are terrified of keeping anything with less than 3 out there, right?
Yeah.
You have to. No, he's going to maintain them. And that just gives extra charges for those Grim Patrons to actually bust out.
These Grim Patrons are going to be ridiculous.
Oh, no. Okay, so this actually helps, though.
He can spawn 4,000 Grim Patrons this turn.
This turn. Wow. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And he can deal with that Thorsan very effectively. Very effectively.
StrifeCro's hand seemed weak at the beginning.
And now it's just powered.
He got through the early game without giving a significant advantage over to Cross.
There we go.
And now, not only is he going to be able to spawn 1,000 Grim Patrons, but he's going to be the first player to do so. And he also has a 0 mana execute, so he can take out his opponent's Thorsan as well, relatively easily, with just the Whirlwind. It's going to get caught in like residual damage.
So there is one thing, though. You were saying that he could spawn a lot, but technically he can only spawn like 3.
No, he can spawn 6.
Oh, if he Whirlwinds
right now, attacks in, he'll have, well, no, yeah, he can spawn 4.
Okay.
Yeah. No, he can spawn 6, he just Whirlwinds again.
No, because if he,
yeah, double Whirlwind.
Wow.
And then he'll be left with, with 6. He can hit one in, he'll have a full board of them, execute the Thorsan, he's got a full board.
5, right?
Wow!
Or excuse me, he'll only have 4. Yeah. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, all 6 of those puppies. Oh, sorry, 5.
5. Okay, yeah.
I was counting 6 creatures. I was counting 6 creatures on board. Everybody,
get in here.
And he not only that, but he puts him at 14.
So he's lethal. 11. He has lethal, and he has the combo again. Hello.
You remove all these Grim Patrons, he does just the same thing.
And do we have... Nope. Wow. Sad life, man.
Well, okay.
Because he doesn't even have Warsong Commander. This is what I was talking about. You throw out your Warsong, you throw out your Frothing Berserker. You know, you might be able to do something. Not really.
Okay. Well, let's look at legitimate ways. The card all the way to the left is a Whirlwind.
Yep.
That doesn't help him.
Nope.
He can well, no, it might. He can execute, swing with Despite on one of them.
Yeah.
And
then
no, he would have to Cruel Taskmaster the Warsong Commander. Even though the Grim Patrons are threatening, the bigger threat is the Warsong Commander because that's what enables not only for him to spawn more that can immediately do damage, but also to spawn damage from his hand.
I think he just has to Fiery War Axe here. Oh my god. Okay. Here's RNG for you.
What?
You Fiery War Axe, you drop Dr. Boom, you Whirlwind, and you hope that the Boom bots...
Well, no, because then he's going to spawn 1,000 Grim Patrons just from the Whirlwind.
He's only going to spawn one. See? The Whirlwind's only going to spawn one.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Give it to me, baby. Let's go.
All right.
RNG time, baby.
Sad thing is...
You know what's going to happen. He's going to spawn 4. It's going to hit 1 for 1 and the other one for 2.
All right. Here we go.
Come on. Come on. I want it.
These boombots are make or break, too!
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, it's still like the best scenario that could happen here, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's not actually the best, but you know what I mean.
Well, he could just Warsong Commander Grim Patron again. Have 3 of them.
He could. Interesting spot, man. Very interesting spot. I love what we're seeing.
Yeah.
So he's just going to go for it. Throw out the Dread Corsair. Makes a ton of sense because now it allows him to maintain his Warsong Commander out there. Because he knows, like, he just spent basically his entire hand. He just needs to put continued pressure on his opponent.
Yeah.
And keep leaning and leaning and leaning and not give him any space to breathe.
Execute's a fantastic draw.
Oh, yeah.
He can clear off...
Almost.
Well, no, because the weapons in his hand are virtually useless. Execute allows him to clear off the Grim Patron that's injured.
Yeah.
He throws his Dr. Boom into the 3/3 and then kills off the Warsong Commander. He takes 2 damage, so he'd be at 5. He leaves 3 damage on the board, and there's 4 damage from the hand. Armor up would be 7. He's dead no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah, he's dead. I mean, he doesn't know that he's dead yet.
Well, of course.
But
I mean, he can make it.
He's trying. He's trying.
I mean, there's a lot of things that kill him. Like Despite would kill him.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is the best way that he can survive.
You have to play around.
This is the least amount of damage he can take. He'll build a big Frothing Berserker, put himself in the best possible position he could for next turn.
Man, it's exact lethal too, which is so brutal.
Wait. No.
No, it's still he's taking.
I was gonna say
he's taking 3 damage or 2 damage. It doesn't matter.
I was thinking there could be like a possibility for him to like double equip Death's Bite to get Whirlwind effects after he killed the Grim Patron, but
the dream, bro.
Yeah.
G.
All right.
StrifeCro will tie up the series 2-2 here, and we are going to game number 5, where we will see again the Hunter attempt to take a win off of this Warrior.
Yeah, this deck seems to have been the liability so far for StrifeCro, the Hunter deck. So we'll see. But StrifeCro, like you said, ties up the series at 2-2. We're going to a game 5. 3 matches in today. 2 of them have already gone to game 5. This has been a pretty intense Hearthstone day.
I mean, they're all looking for redemption, man.
Yep, looking to redeem themselves.
Of course, if you guys don't know, $25,000 is going to be on the line at the season finals happening June 5th to June 7th. Going to be a lot of fun.
It's a lot of money.
I might be passing by. Might say hello to you guys. Really excited for that.
I'll be there.
I know you will. And also, there's an open qualifiers coming up very, very soon. If you guys are interested in participating and trying to qualify for the tournament that these fellows are, make sure you check out, what's the website again?
LegendarySeries.com.
I love it. I love it when you say it, bro.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, let's go into game number 5. As we were talking about Hunter versus Warrior, not looking good for StrifeCro, my friend.
Yeah, this is a rough matchup. A lot of pros are pretty adamant about saying how tough this matchup is for the Hunter. At the beginning, it wasn't so much because people, the very first Grim Patron Warrior decks actually didn't run Armorsmith, which was a little bit interesting. But since it's been put in, this matchup is really hard. Yeah. And not only because of Armorsmith, just because of armor in general. The ability for Warriors to control and stabilize the board early on and be able to draw into their combos is just matched by no other class. The ability for they have weapons. In an emergencies, they can use Whirlwind and Inner Rage to clear the board. Really tough for Hunters to get going.
And there's just so, like, if you look at the proportion of 1 health creatures in this deck, there's just so many more. So it just boosts like the power of Whirlwind that much more.
Yeah.
As you're saying, it should still be used for emergency cases. It shouldn't just be like, oh, you dropped a Leper Gnome. Let me Whirlwind.
Willy-nilly Whirlwind.
No big deal. Got rid of it. Got it, buddy.
Yeah. This Hunter deck fares off a little better against Patron Warrior just because it has a little more resilient drops. Pilot Shredder is a really great card.
Yep.
Animal Companion also has the potential to be really great, especially if you can get it out before Despite has the potential to come out and ruin your day.
Yeah, you want a Misha at that point too.
And this hand is not the best for Cross.
No, it isn't. I heard starting out with 2 Battle Rage is not the best.
No, but I have a funny story to tell you.
Go on.
Dan might hate me for telling this.
Dan?
Yeah, so Dan and I played a best of 5.
Okay.
Before the game. He actually beat me in the best of 5, so I want to preface it with that.
Okay.
So the one game that we played was not really representative of the series as a whole. But I was playing my patented Hobgoblin Warrior.
Oh.
And
patented.
He was playing his patented Mech Rogue. And I actually started that game with double Battle Rage in my opening hand. And I still beat him.
Wow.
Yep, impressive stuff.
You must be really, really a lot more skilled than Dan then.
Yeah. Well, no, he beat me. He beat me overall in the series 3-2, but it was still
super close.
Fun game nonetheless.
Dan, you know, through my history with just playing with him, whether it be League, StarCraft, whatever it might be, the guy is like a true grinder, man. Like,
yeah.
That guy just churns out game after game after game and just tries new stuff all the time.
Yep.
Really, really cool to watch him.
Loves to experiment.
Yep. It's like he's in college forever.
Yeah. Indeed.
He's a scholar. Scholar of all things good in life.
The esports scholar.
That's right, man.
Well, the deck that hasn't improved very much, or the hand hasn't improved very much, but Father Berserker is actually a great draw to just throw out on turn 3 against this deck, because it'll a lot of times get 2 for 1, but that's a freezing trap. And so he's going to have that thing protected. He could throw out his Piloted Shredder here. It's going to get eaten up by the Fiery War Axe, but that's a lot of damage he's taking to the face,
that's
and whatever's going to come out of this, Cross doesn't have any way to deal with. So,
well, we'll find out if he has to deal with it. Watch.
Ooh, 3 damage.
Doomsayer.
I mean,
yeah, that's beautiful.
He has to. He's going to just Battle Rage here because there's nothing else to do. He needs to improve his hand. At least one Battle Rage needs to come out here. I'd say Battle Rage Armor Up would probably be the play. I mean, he can.
You could whirl. It just sounds so awful.
He can Whirlwind Battle Rage, but Whirlwind in that case effectively is just drawing you one. Well, that's still good.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Potentially good, but.
See, I'm very unclear what to do in these spots. You know, like, is it correct for us to cycle out Whirlwind or not? You know, when a lot of times I ask myself, like, okay, how dire is this situation? Am I 100% dead if I don't just start cycling and getting my good cards?
Yeah.
And
well, 1 mana draw a card is actually really efficient. If you look at it in just that context.
That's true. That's true.
And it also, the Execute, yeah, okay. Well, Execute allows him to save a lot of damage, so.
Yeah. So he is going to execute that. I mean, again, if we look at this in a vacuum just by this turn, it looks just awful. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, he's looking for his combo. He's looking for ways on him staying alive, knowing that the later stages in the game, with the power of Armor Smiths and armor up, he will be able to weather the storm and be okay.
Yep.
Okay. Another one gets thrown out. There's that one component of the combo, but not going to help all too much right now.
Well,
he could proc the freezing trap with Armor Smith, if that's what you're reading into.
Yeah. He could also Battle Rage.
He could also Battle Rage for 2. Yeah, Battle Rage, see what happens.
So if you Battle Rage for 2, what can you draw into that allows you to deal with the Piloted Treader? You can draw into Fire War Axe. Won't have enough mana for Death Bite.
Nope.
And that's pretty much it.
That's it.
Battle Rage also, since you have Warsong Commander in your hand.
Oh, you could, no. I was thinking Dread Corsair, but you don't have enough mana for that.
You also need to address this Freezing Trap eventually. Or, I mean, he doesn't even know that it's Freezing Trap. You have to address this trap, period, eventually. So, it might be best to approach that trap with the Armor Smith to preserve the 6 damage from the Frothy Berserker, to try and preserve some of the pressure that you have on the board. I don't know if he's ever really going to... I mean, this game usually is very fast-paced.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you'd ever have an opportunity to...
Interesting.
Oh, this is okay. Because it means so next turn he'll be able to proc the Freezing Trap almost regardless.
Yeah. The problem is right now...
I think you can
just go Quick Shot.
Yeah, you can just Animal Companion, throw the Piloted Shredder into the Armor Smith, and then Quick Shot the Acolyte, and then all of a sudden, Cross is in the same spot that he was last turn, where he can't proc the Freezing Trap.
Yeah. Oh man.
And it's a hopper.
Oh man, how beautiful! How well did that just work out? All right, and then Quick Shot the Acolyte. Exactly what you're saying.
Yep.
Yepper skipper, man.
Dark Bomb.
Oh,
okay.
Okay, yeah, that makes of course, of course. And that way you get rid of the main threat, and the Acolyte will not be able to draw you any cards. Oh my god.
I don't know why I was tunneling on the Acolyte there. I mean, I thought in the back of my head the Frothing Berserker was still at 4 health, but that's obviously the better play. I mean, of course, he might still be able to get draws out of the Acolyte, but I think you're more scared of him getting a 10+ damage Frothing Berserker into your face than you are of...
oh my gosh. And now he's just going to throw out Thorson. It's his whole turn, and he's going to pass.
I mean,
this is a lot of damage coming in from this turn.
Yeah.
I mean, he can bring him down to at least 11.
Yeah. This Hybrid Hunter focuses a little bit more on board control than a Face Hunter.
Okay.
Like, he could Glaive Zuka here, trade in whatever 4-attack creature gets 5 attack into the Emperor Thorsan.
Interesting. Okay.
Which I think leaving that 5 body on the board, and I think that's what he wanted it to go on.
See, I would think just go for face, but...
Yeah.
Also, interesting, I would throw out a Haunted Creeper here because, you know, you could use Knife Juggler and activate the Haunted Creeper, and obviously you get 2 extra damage.
Well, if he throws out the Knife Juggler here, I'm pretty sure that he's...
Oh, he's going to throw out the Haunted Creeper.
He's expecting to trade because he wants to get the knife.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
From whatever pops out of the Pilot Shredder. But he's thinking, how much damage could I do over the next 2 turns if I don't trade? He's got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, he did go face.
All right.
All right. Well, he does have multiple ways for lethal next turn, even if one of the creatures gets cleared off the board with the Wolf Rider.
Oh, man. That's brutal.
I don't think there's any way for him to survive this.
I don't think so either, man.
He can Battle Rage into something.
Yeah, you have to trade your Thorson into the Huffer. Yeah, the Huffer, and then
Battle Rage.
For it. Battle Rage it up.
Or you
5 mana. Like, what's out there for 5 or 3 mana? No, not even. 1 mana? Execute. Because I'm thinking you could use your Warsong Commander, your Cruel Taskmaster, and then something else, but man, that's brutal.
Yeah.
All right, Battle Rage. Nope, not going to help. Not going to help.
That helps. He can actually Warsong Commander, double Cruel Taskmaster,
you're right,
and trade. But if he does that, he doesn't armor up. He'd actually still be alive because that's a Glaive Zuka. He would have 3 damage from the Wolf Rider, 2 from the Glaive Zuka, 2 from Hero Power. StrifeCro has 7 damage from hand next turn.
Yep.
8 keeps him healthy. Warsaw Commander double cool Taskmaster.
All right.
And hope that he can kill whatever comes out of this piloted shredder with the cool Taskmaster.
Do you believe? Do you believe?
He's running out of time.
Oh my God.
If this, whatever comes out of this pilot shredder has 3 health. Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
That's still
lethal.
lethal.
God, that stinks so bad because, of course, the Wolf Rider is going to gain off of that.
Oh, my goodness. That is brutal.
And the Arcane Golem. You could have used both.
Yeah, it wouldn't have
It didn't matter.
And with the Flametongue Totem, that's actually an absurd amount of overkill. And StrifeCro is going to move on to the semifinals to face Lead Paint.
By the skin of his teeth, too, man.
Yeah.
By the skin of his teeth. Although that was probably the best possible situation we could have had for the Hunter. In the very last game, he had 3 chances to get, well, to have his opponent have kind of a bad draw. He finally got it in the last game. And of all of the classes that he was able to beat, it was that Grim Patron Warrior, which is kind of crazy.
It's a tough matchup. Cross did have a really bad hand to start off. Double Battle Rage.
And he's not TJ Sanders, right?
Yeah, he was given some tools in the mid game to try and stabilize, but by that time,
it's so hard.
StrifeCro just had ridiculous. It took him 3 tries, but he finally manages to find one with the Hunter. And our semifinals are set. First semifinal, of course, is going to be GCT Turth versus Chalky, and then Lead Paint. Oh, that should be Lead Paint versus StrifeCro.
That's okay. If you guys are wondering, like, hey, why did GCT Turth get all the way up to that position? It's because he's the one that actually got second in one of the recent Legendary Series tournaments. Yeah. So because of that, he gets seeded a little bit higher. We haven't seen him just yet, but we will in our next series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. So GCT Turth versus Chalky, I believe, coming up next. And Chalky, in his first match of the day, he struggled a lot. It was a 3-2. It was a really close series. Just like we saw with StrifeCro earlier, he had trouble winning with one of his decks, but it was his Rogue. So it's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen in that one. But, of course, that match plus the second semifinal and the final still to come here on Group B of the Redemption Series. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back.